Hello. Delay so bad. Whatever. Hello. Hey, Manny Shay. Okay. I'll be back. Lisa. Girl. When I found out that I was like, what? You know, you're a superstar? Ugh. I'm not gonna lie. I can't do roast. And I don't know how I ever get offered one. I probably won't. That's not really my demographic with my crew people. I'm not. It's not easy. It's not. No. It's not easy. It's not. You could. It doesn't have to come out. I'm leaving the country, or I'm not leaving the country, but I'm leaving. You know. Ugh. We are back. Relatable with Jackie Fabulous. It's been so long. Today I get to chit chat with Lisa Lampanelli. Ooh, I even sound like a New Yorker when I said it. She'll be joining us.
Hi.
Hi. Hold on, let me turn this up.
I'm even spitting out my gum for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the incomparable, legendary Lisa Lampanelli.
Oh my God. Hi, Jackie.
Oh my God, Lisa, how are you? This is huge.
Dude, I love you. You know what's so funny?
What?
You and I never met because you came to the city, but by the time you were doing comedy, I was practically retired already. And I just have heard such great things about you.
Aww.
My manager is your manager.
Yes.
He loves you. And I'm like, I am obsessed with Jackie. And I love your Instagram. And you crack me up because you're always saying stuff that I'm like, oh my God, that's stuff only I would say.
Yeah. And that's a big deal if you would say it. So that's a big deal and an honor. How have you been? I just got into a rabbit hole of you. Like, I looked you up, one little thing, and next thing you know, I'm like, oh my God, I should have started this a day ago. I want to see every video. I want to see what made you, okay, where have you been? What's going on? Where do you live now? What coast?
Well, I've always been a Connecticut person, but I moved
Oh,
all over the country. While I was still trying to make it back like
yes.
20 something years ago, I
Uh-huh.
moved to LA for a couple of years until our manager said, "Okay, you could leave now."
Right.
Like you have to spend a few years, at least back then, you had to spend a few years in LA so everybody in the industry would know who you were.
I
So,
was there 20 years. I just moved back. Isn't that a
yeah.
long time to give it? I gave them all I had.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay. I said to her, "Tell me the minute I can leave," because I'm definitely an East Coast person. So I've been in and out of New York since college. Just in and out, in and out, and I really am sort of suburban at heart.
Oh,
So I lived primarily in Connecticut for the last 10 years, and especially in the 3, 4 years since I've been retired, I just like hang out here, and it's just.
uh-huh. When I went to your website, I'm not gonna lie, when I saw the words former stand-up comedian, I was like, oh,
I know.
that makes it real when you put it in the website in your profile. Like
Well,
that's real.
actually, it's real when you announce it on Howard Stern, because what I did was I wanted to announce it somewhere who would take it, someone who would get it, who
Yes.
understands the concept of not doing things you don't want to do anymore, who
Yeah.
gets that if you lose some of the joy, it's going to show to the audience. So I
Yes.
was like, the perfect person would be Stern. Then I had a bunch of people after him. And thank God there was just some magic going on, because he used to have me on quite a bit. I was
Yeah.
like, he actually took it very seriously. It was, I did my final roast and I was like, oh my God, this is great. It's a burden that lifts when you stop doing things that you don't
You
have
don't want to
joy
do.
about. And
Yeah.
it's not even like it was, oh my God, the stand-up's painful. No, it was just like, if 30 years, or if you're in a job for 30 years, like I challenge any postal worker, well, that's a bad example, any doctor even, to still have the same joy. And a doctor, yeah, you can kind of be like not happy when you see your patients. With stand up, you better bring it. And so I
Yeah.
thought, before the audience sees it, I'm going to kind of get out while the getting's good.
You know what happened to me? It's I'm gonna be 50 August 12th, right?
Ah,
And I have been having that itch to do something else, still in entertainment, but
right.
not the stand-up grind that I've been doing for 17 years.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, why would you give up now? I'm like, no, I'm not giving up. I just want to spend the time that I have doing something else. That's all.
Right.
It's
And
not that I want to leave it at
right.
all.
And it's, the thing is, it's not giving up if it's right for you.
Yeah.
And also the best thing is when you don't care what anyone else says. And I used to always take a poll of people to ask, to figure out what I thought. And then
Yeah.
with the stand up, even Maggie pushed back a little. I'll be honest. She was like, "Don't kill the Queen of Mean. That people love that." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I know I know myself enough to know that even if I perform the way I am, if I do a storytelling show or if I do a podcast or whatever, it's not going to be that same thing. So I could just kind of kill it and move on." And boy, dude, it is freeing to not listen to anybody and go, "Well, I'm an adult. It's cool."
When I moved from LA to New York, I didn't ask anyone, I didn't
Yes.
tell anyone. I just all of a sudden was like, "Hey guys, I sold my car, blah blah blah." They were like, "Who died?" I'm like, "No, everyone's alive. No
Yes.
emergency. I just decided I gave LA 100%,
Yep.
and I'm from New York, so it's okay. I'm not going to Iowa or some backwoods. I'm going to another popular place."
Right. Well, actually, because New York is so steeped in such great stand-up tradition, I was
Yeah.
always glad that I came up that way. I was smart enough to stay out of the city for the first 5 years I did comedy, so that I would land there like, "Oh my God, who's this?" So
Yes.
I honed it. Oh, hold on, I got to pick up one of my needy bitch dogs. Um, Hi.
Aw, hi.
That's Parker. But like, I honed it out there, but then I was like, oh, the city is where people do comedy. Like,
Yes.
there's really respect for comics from New York. And I think it takes a lot of bravery to move to a major city like New York or LA and really give it the college try.
Right. Yeah.
But, it's really interesting. I had said, because Dr. Drew had called me right after the Stern appearance, like literally that hour. And he's like, "I want to talk to you about this. This is deep." And what was great, what came out on his show that I kind of guess I knew, was I was just trying to connect in any way I knew how. Yeah, it was funny. So use that tool to connect with people. So I haven't lost anything as a human,
Performer, yeah.
because now I'm connecting with people one-on-one or in groups or smaller groups or two-on-two or volunteering or whatever I'm doing. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. I still get that hit of connection,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be on stage and selfish that way for me.
Okay. That's what I did when I honed the skill is I did it in Orange County, California, in,
Yeah, that
in,
was
in
smart.
a small town, and I got good in a very small towns, cities, whatever. And
Yep.
when I moved to Los Angeles, they were like, why do you have so much confidence?" And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Because I went through all of the insecure bullshit in
Right.
Orange County. So when I got to you guys, I came ready." And
Oh,
I
dude, that's the way to do it, man. It's
yeah,
like going to college prepared. You know what
yes,
I mean? It's like,
yeah,
no. We know when we want to be seen.
hmm
And that was a smart move on your part. I thought it was a great idea, because I was like, why should they see me as an open micer? You're going to always see me as a headliner. Yeah,
exactly,
you're not a true headliner, obviously, after 5 years. But after
yeah.
5 years, I was like, at least I could go up. At the time, the comic strip was the big place
Oh,
where
I have yet to do it. I've been invited to go do it. I haven't done a comic strip yet.
yeah. Oh, it's not worth it now because now the cellar is the place. Well, it's just clubs have a like sort of a
Yes,
spiraling effect. So, but at the time, if you passed the strip, because it was this very hardcore guy named Lucian Hold, if
yeah.
Lucian let you work there, then you made it. So the fact is, dude, who's going to want to be seen as an open micer by that guy?
No,
You
no,
know,
no.
I just, and also my gut, that's why I went with my gut with the retirement, and anything else I say yes to now. Like, I just know myself. Like, what you and I probably have in common, we're really freaking smart. Like, we know inside what to do.
Self-aware.
The
Yeah.
problem is people think habit is gut. It's like, no, just because you said hell yes doesn't mean hell yes. That means, oh, I've been doing the same thing my whole life and just jumping and jumping. Now
Yeah.
it's like, oh, do you feel it in your body? Does it feel right? Okay, I'm going. So every
Yeah.
time I look at my calendar, no matter what I'm doing, I'm like, oh, yes, versus, yeah, no, sure, I'll do this, I'll do that. It's very interesting.
That's what I did. I cut back on how often I go up during the week because I'm an addict still, and
Yeah,
I could go up 7 nights a week and do 4 or 5 shows a night, and
sure.
I was doing that almost, and making good money. But I was also my voice was always hoarse. I
Yeah,
wasn't getting any sleep. I wasn't able to do girly things during the day because I knew I had to be back in time to
right.
shower to go. So I cut back on that, and of course the clubs are like, "What happened to you?" I'm like, "Nothing." But I realize if I'm here all the time, I'm not going to get better. I'm just going to be repetitive and I
Yeah.
need to live life and travel and
Well,
I wanted to ask, when did you
yeah.
start stand up?
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say
Right.
it becomes a compulsion, and I always took people who did it every night, which I did for many years. As I'd watch how the Joan Rivers movie, the documentary, and
Yeah.
Jim Norton, going up all the time. Years ago, he would go up every night, and I'd be like, "Why? Like you're really good." So, and that's not how you stay good, in my opinion. I think you do it, but
Yes.
then you realize, oh, and I did bump into Jim a few years ago, and he's like, yeah, I've cut down a lot. And I'm like, that's just growth. So I think it's really interesting to kind of listen to yourself and know that you know better,
Yeah,
right?
that just happened. And I guess with the trying, I'm always showcasing in my mind to get to become a regular or popular at some big venue. And
Right.
like once you get that, then I didn't snap out of the audition mind frame
There you go.
once I got in. And they're like, and I would land from a road gig with my suitcase and go to
Uh-oh.
the cellar with my suitcase to the point where the manager is like, "Jackie, you're in. You don't have to
Yeah,
get off
yeah.
an airplane and come here. You can go home." And I
Right, like
realized,
someone should be able to, you shouldn't have to go up after a funeral. You know what I mean? And it's just like crazy. But we do, we're addicts at heart. I've had the food addiction, and then addiction to always being in a relationship with a guy, addiction to comedy. And it's like, oh, I read a post recently where someone put, how great does it feel to not be chasing anything and not running from anything? I'm like,
oh,
oh my God, it's the
oh
best.
my God, that's incredible.
Right? I hope I can just stay that way, because it's a very, it's a retirement is weird. They always say, well, I read in a book that people take about 3 tries before they retire successfully,
Oh,
that they
okay.
feel they have enough purpose, even if it's small purpose,
Yeah.
with dogs or plants or volunteering or just a little purpose, it's really hard not to feel so robbed of identity. And
Yeah.
it took me about 3-4 years to get comfortable with just saying yes to less and doing stuff that just tickles me, and it's fun.
Yeah. And it's not a ruse to try and get more money when you say no.
Oh
'Cause
God,
and
yes, it's just no.
you're
I
like, I don't want to
Maggie,
be around you guys. I don't want your money.
Jackie, you're gonna laugh so hard at this because you know
What?
Maggie's hardcore.
Yeah.
She's so nice because she's Midwestern, but she's hardcore.
Yes.
Parker, go lay down. One time I had a big rule other than Montreal. I did not want to do comedy festivals. I was just, this is so freaking stupid. I don't want to be lumped in. Like, I had such a, and I think it's fine to make that decision. I was like, I just want to play it on my own. Like, I don't want to, I can sell tickets. Like, at my height, I was like selling out Radio City and things like that. So why should I do it with these other dopes? So anyway, that's my thinking, obviously. But Maggie, I've got a call from some festival and they're like, you know, we want Lisa at the Chicago Theater. And she's like, no, she could do it by herself. She doesn't need the festival. And she gave them the most outrageous sum of money as a demand. And she goes, so I guess you're not doing that. They said yes. And she goes, you have to do it now. And I'm like, well, that's fine because it's awesome money. But it made me laugh so hard because I'm like, sometimes when you just ask for this weird amount, you like get it. And I'm like, okay, I guess we'll do it.
I realize that the lowballing because it takes, I don't even know if I'm there yet, but it takes so long to not feel bad when you give a quote based on no reference beyond other than I think I deserve that now.
Oh,
like
100%.
After watching other people in their careers and just knowing the gauge of what is possible, it takes so much nerve to be like, between my education and experience and the ability to speak, I think I should get this amount. And usually they come back after a while and they're like, all right.
Yeah.
You got to be okay with you might not get it, but you didn't care to begin with.
Well, you know, you have to be willing. I saw a great talk once by Phil Rosenthal, who created Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh,
and he said, you have to be willing to walk away if something's that important to you.
Yeah.
Wow. Like that's power just because if they are going to cast somebody, say, in a part in your TV show who's just wildly inappropriate, you have to not be afraid to say to CBS, no, we want Patricia Heaton. We want, you know, Doris Roberts. So I learned that so long ago that I'm like, I used to think I wanted so much. It really doesn't add anything to your life. Like less is more. Like, dude, like the less, I was reading, you don't add things to your life to make it happy. You take things out. So you get rid of too much meaningless stuff around the house. You get rid of too many meaningless trips. You get rid of too many friends. I mean, the best thing about COVID, or probably the only good thing, was that I dumped 2 friends who just, every time I saw their name in my calendar, I wanted to eat a gun. So I'm like, you know what? What am I doing? So the word no is the most powerful word in the English language. But as women, especially, and insecure performers, we're not allowed to say no. And it's like, ooh, no is fun.
Oh my God. I've recently been on a rampage on social media with like, oh my God, no is not my quote, but no is a complete sentence.
Well, we learned that. I learned that. I went to a codependency rehab once because I'm a hero. I was always dating and it couldn't be alone. And thank God, it really worked back in my 40s. So for the past like 17 years, I've been like, oh my God, this is such a relief not to feel this compulsion. And they said, when you turn down an invitation, dude, this is still hard for me. I just turned 60 and I still find it hard. If somebody goes, do you want to go to ... Just saying no instead of going, even saying no, I don't want to is extra. But to just go no, I mean, it's the most uncomfortable thing ever. I mean, the only thing I've been comfortable saying no to is anal sex. I'm like, no. So hopefully I'll start viewing some social obligations as anal sex and I'll be able to just say no.
You know what I do? I'll say no, and usually they follow up with why. Then I say, because I don't want to. Then they leave me alone.
Yes, because really, like, most of the time, I think my friends are too afraid to ask why I don't want to because they know it's going to be like, because you're annoying or something freaking horrible. Don't make me say it. I have a saying I just say to my friends, don't make me hate you right now. Don't make you. And you know what's the best too about our manager, Maggie? What? We'll get, even after retirement, I still get like offers for things. And all she does, she forwards me the email and she just goes, pass question mark. She knows 90% of the stuff is a pass, but
Yeah.
guess what is never a pass, Jackie? And you'll love this.
What?
Literally, if it gives me a chance to talk about myself, I'm in. I'm
Ah!
so self-centered and I have so much what I feel is brilliant knowledge that she asked me to do some, or Adam Carolla has asked me to do some like a comedy boot camp to teach people, which I love
Yeah.
that stuff. And Maggie goes, pass question mark. And I go, come on. I get to talk about myself for 2 or 3 hours on any subject. Bitch, sign me up as long as it's first class air or 2 seats in coach. I don't care. I'm not, using my privilege. I just want at least to spread out. Come on.
Yeah, I've never had anyone admit that. Like, why you want to do it? Because it's gonna be all about me.
Dude, who's more interesting and fascinating? I used to yell at that audience. I used to get, you better be quiet because I'm smarter than all of you. I'm richer than all of you. And I'm definitely funnier because you're down there and I'm up here. So you need to listen. But that shit was fun. Oh my God.
When did you start stand up? Like what was your beginning into it?
Well, I was lucky enough that, again, I just in my gut knew to do things when I'm ready.
Yes.
I'm not a procrastinator. I don't have fear of success. I just had, you'll know when it's right. Like something told me. So I hit 30.
Mm-hmm.
I had been a journalist. I had gone to college for journalism at Syracuse. And I was like, okay, I'm never going to be a great journalist. I'm never going to be, a beautiful writer. I'm a good writer, but not to the extent of more than an autobiography.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? Let me try this thing. And I got lucky enough that I was working at Rolling Stone at the time in journalism.
Wow.
And I remember saying to this guy, I'll never forget, in the research department, this dude, Steve Futterman, he was so funny.
First and last name.
The best. And I go, Steve, I kind of want to try stand up. Like, do you think that's stupid? What do you think? And he goes, don't do it. That's for the most self-centered, egotistical people on the planet. It's all about you. And I go, sign me the F up. Sounds good. So I got lucky enough that I just did a few little classes in like how to construct 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And from the teacher ironically was named Michael Jackson, which is so funny. And I was like, he was black. So they were 2 different people.
Yeah.
So I learned from this guy. And I just, thank God, just started open micing and developing, and just the stars were on my side. I was a hard worker, and I just said, let me make this happen.
Well, I see myself in you because I was 35 when I started.
Yeah.
I took Judy Carter's class
to
learn how to put together 5 minutes. And the first show, it was in 2005 or 6 at the Hollywood Improv. And I remember the set, the jokes, and I remember after that show, everyone in the audience and the class was like, you can't stop doing this now. You have to do this forever.
Well, that's what I love to hear because you just knew it. And, I remember the night I did my first open mic, and I still have the tape. It's on VHS.
Where'd you do it?
Joker's Wild in New Haven, Connecticut, because that's where the class was. These 2 black guys in the back high-fived at an ad lib I did. And I was smart enough, even at 30, to go, wait a minute, that's what they high-fived at. And the material was fine.
Mm-hmm.
You're meant to talk to people more and ad-lib more. So, of course, then I aired way on the side of all ad-libs and
insult. Work and yeah.
And then it kind of came in the middle. And I always was confident that, people overact, then they way underact on camera. And then it comes to the middle. So that's how retirement's been for me. It's like I way overdid stuff. Then I really underdid stuff in COVID like everybody else. Now it's coming to, you do just the right amount.
That makes so much sense.
But it all is a process. So people get impatient and they get mad at themselves for doing too much. It's just a journey and a process. I have the best t-shirt, by the way. It says, fuck your journey, which I love because if it's one more about their journey, I'll punch them in the clit. But I am telling you, I love going, relax. You're going to get there. So even if I look at my schedule today, I was like, go to the nutritionist because I, kept all my weight off after the surgery, thank God. And I'm just trying to be, eat healthy a little bit. Go to the dance class, talk to Jackie, do this other podcast, then go out to dinner. That's just enough. And it's a different part of the soul though. Like the dietitian part fed the fact that I want to keep having energy. So did the dance thing, and that's just cute and it's fun. It's ballroom. It's silly.
Oh.
And then this stuff is like, oh, this is really cute, and I get to talk about what I'm doing and stuff like that, and meet new people like yourself, and then go, oh, then dinner with a relative, like nailing it, killing it with life, but very little stuff that seems exciting, but to me it is.
Yes, yes. When you would do the roasts, like I someone asked me to do a roast, not a big one on TV, but just for their web series,
Yeah,
and I personally cannot do roasts. I
yeah.
don't know why,
It's
because I know how to be mean-ish or at least provocative, but something about a roast I just don't know. Maybe because I couldn't handle it. Like, how did you?
Well, I think the thing is because I was an insult comic just in
Okay,
the audience. When the Friars Club said to Comedy Central, we need you to put her on the Chevy Chase roast because at the time they were producers for the roast, and they
okay,
were like, we don't even know her, and they're like, trust me, she's a badass. So I think it was because I was like, oh, I already like f with the audience. All this is insert celebrity douchebag here,
yeah,
and I would always then be real good, and then they'd always make me go last, and then I'd have Maggie call them up and say she's not going last unless it's for more money. That's the hardest spot ever. And
woo,
and the fact is, it's like, wow, I'm very thin-skinned and can't take a joke. I'm literally an insult comic who can't take a joke. That's like
wow,
a porn star being allergic to semen. I mean, you just can't do that. But yet, for the roast, somehow I had a thick skin, and only very badly written jokes that were lazy hurt my feelings. So I was like, oh, really? That's all
you're
you got?
insulted. You're like, how dare you insult me with that bullshit? Yeah,
Like, this is me. Like, let's hit me hard.
yeah,
Something clever. Like, there's clever jokes about me, even now that I cry laughing. Like, I remember when Artie Lang was at his most disgusting, poor thing, was very, he was still addicted to heroin. He was very overweight. He almost looked gray. And he
yeah.
goes up at one of the roasts, like I think it was Shatner, and he goes, if I had a nickel for every time someone said to me, hey, aren't you Lisa Lampanelli? I mean, that's hilarious.
That's
So
hysterical.
I could take a good joke and a very
Yeah.
specific, non-lazy joke. And then also, Jackie, the big trick to a freaking roast on TV,
What?
they have the big teleprompter where everybody's scripts are.
Yes.
Well, you're sitting on the dais and you're getting ready for, you're sitting there and
Yeah.
the thing's scrolling, you see your name. You go, get ready to laugh, bitch. So that you look like, even if it's a terrible joke, that you're the best sport in the world. You get more TV airtime. Suddenly, you're the great sport who's a great roaster. Oh my God, she gets as good as she gets. So again, it was really very few things hurt my feelings, but like in life in general, I'm like a total pussy, like have absolutely too many feelings and whatever. So that's good to kind of now do it.
Do you see any similarities between you and the female comics who do the roast now? Like, are any of them like, wow, she reminds me of me, or she's just cool in general?
Listen,
Any?
all of them fucking stole from me. Just kidding. Don't you hate those people?
I'm
I
like, we make this shit up, and there's nothing new under the sun. Just,
I always hated older comics who have to shit on the new ones because they can't let go. I watched the greatest documentary last night, Woodstock 99, and these guys will not let go of that Woodstock was so great that you, the new generation, have to experience it. And then like 14 girls at least were raped at the 99 Woodstock. So it's like, no, let it go. This is not about peace and love anymore.
yeah.
Well, these older female comics, like the Joan Riverses and people like that, always were hating on the younger ones. And I'm like, and at the time I was one of the younger ones, and I
Yeah.
was like, why? They're really good. So like when I see like Nikki and Whitney Cummings, who doesn't do the roast anymore, she and I made a pact years ago to never do them again.
Really?
Oh yeah, we're like not worth the money because honestly they're so hard. It's 30 at least days of hell preparing. But I'm like they're fun and good and sweet and everybody's nice to me and like I just love that.
Yeah.
But Nikki especially, what I love about Nikki, okay, I did her podcast a couple times during COVID, and I just found it fascinating that now, as comics, we can talk about deep issues. Like she could talk about mental health, she could talk about anorexia, eating problems, codependence, and I'm like, oh, in my day, you weren't allowed to talk about that. You weren't allowed to go and be like, oh, here's what I'm
Vulnerable?
struggling with.
Yeah. Oh.
So I think it's badass. Like I really love I don't watch much comedy, but those chicks, I'm like, yeah.
I
You
think
know,
that's how they get this cult following. Their fan base becomes so loyal because they discuss things that their fans are like, "Oh my God, I thought you were, you're skinny, pretty, white, blonde. Your life is
yeah,
perfect. Oh my
yeah,
God, it's not." And then that makes women be like, "I will follow her anywhere."
100%. Like it's like I was in this food rehab once. I went to every program to figure out food, try
I
it.
tried Overeaters Anonymous, and I'm not gonna lie, I went to one meeting,
Oh, it's awful.
and I'm such a clown that I was like, "You girls are really serious. There's nothing funny in any of these meetings," and I've been to
Oh
a few of
no.
them.
No,
And
it's
I
tough.
told a joke once. I went to Debtors Anonymous once in Brentwood, California,
Right.
and I shared, but I got so thirsty for the audience because it was packed.
Ah! I do. That's funny because I have a friend who goes to Al-Anon a lot, and she always says to me, "I cracked them up this week," and I'm like, I don't think that's the point, but
I know. I'm like, I stood up and I'm like, look, I'm here because I have a Louis Vuitton purse that costs $800, and I do not have $800 in my life at
right,
all.
right.
And
They always say if you can't afford it, it's putting it on a credit card means can't afford it. You know what
exactly.
I mean?
And I killed with that one line, and I'm like, I have a problem. This is not for killing. This is for learning.
Well, it's funny because like just the whole idea of like when I had gone to this food rehab, it was for 28 days. It was like a drug rehab,
Oh
but it was
wow.
just for food issues. And everyone else was there was one other overweight woman, but there was mostly anorexics and bulimics. And I'm like, wow, looking at them on the street, I would just be like, oh, what problems could they possibly have?
Yeah.
Like they're so beautiful and this and that. And that's when I think about people like Nikki and those people opening their mouths about what they struggle with or have struggled with. I'm like, yeah, because just because you look a certain way, life ain't so much fun.
Yeah.
And it just gives you a lot of hope. It's really, really nice that people are opening up more.
So what in your life changed and made you go through this metamorphosis of I'm not going to do stand up the way I used to. I'm going to change my whole body. Like you really you did what I would love to have the discipline to do, which is really make a big shift and change everything. Cuz I researched recently weight loss surgery, bariatric.
Yeah.
I never followed up with it because because every now and then I would inquire and they're like, "You're not really, but you still could." You know what I mean in terms
Yeah.
of
Well,
the
that
weight.
happened. That happened when I went to the doctor. What happened was I did Celebrity Apprentice.
Okay,
It was
I remember.
really, really stressful, really difficult, but because I was like out to show that comics are smart, and it was good. I lasted the whole time. I was Final Four. I was on every episode. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready. I could look myself in the eye and say, unless I get rid of this weight, I'm going to stay being bummed out or depressed or sad about it and feel like a failure. So let me get the weight thing out of the way and work on the insides. So I think that's why I've kept it off, opposed to a lot of people who have the surgery and put it back on,
Yeah,
because I'm like, I've been working on the emotional eating part for years. Let's continue that. This is not a quick fix.
yeah,
Yeah, you drop weight fast, but boy, keeping it off, it ain't fun or easy. So I think what happened was because I was showing more of my true self physically, then I was like, oh, I want to show more of my true self emotionally. So I wrote this off Broadway play that had 2 runs about food. Then I started doing these different storytelling shows like Risk and, these different, the big ones. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I can actually do the moth
yeah,
and show who I am. And so it was always still a little funny because you can't, in my opinion, I'm not going to do Shakespeare. I'm always going to do something that has a little humor in it because it's just
yeah,
me.
yeah.
But I said, wow, this is cool. And then I just started noticing. That's the thing. I started noticing my life and what wasn't joyful or happy.
Were you married during this learning about yourself, or were you
And
divorced?
that's when I got divorced too, because I just noticed we're just friends.
Oh my God, you're like a white me. I guess
Yeah.
I was with one guy for 10 years, and then we eloped way past it being over.
Oh my God, dude. I
What?
love that. Well, you want to know why you're smarter than me?
Why?
Because my fucking wedding cost me 350 grand and I loved it. I would do it again in an
Oh,
instant because
yeah,
it seemed to me all I remember about that wedding
yeah,
is my father, who was my favorite person ever. I remember in my head when I think wedding, I think of him dancing with my niece and just how cute he was. He was like 85. And
okay,
I go, you know what?
worth
This
it.
was a family reunion for me.
Okay.
Jimmy and I, who works at Jimmy, I think you probably know from Gotham, he's one of the bouncers.
Okay.
He and I was just like, we're just friends. Like, that's not the way to live. And thank God it was such a friendly divorce that I went to his new wedding. I was like, oh my God, like this is the, of course, I was at the comics table and I was
Yeah.
like, this is so, wait, isn't it interesting when we just start to notice? The problem is we get on autopilot and don't notice.
Yes, exactly. And as soon as I started to notice things, my career got a little less stagnant. I guess partially why I left LA because I felt like I was just on this treadmill of you. The clubs know you. You go. You can go up every night if you want to. You're very respected, but you're not getting better.
Yep.
And I was also, to be honest with you, I was getting high too much. Like I was like the California legalizing it. I was like new to it, and but
Yeah.
then when I saw he was everywhere, so accessible, I'm like I am. I'd go on the road Thursday through Sunday. I'd come back and get high in my apartment, then leave again on Thursday, and I'm like, this is not. I need to do something to switch this up. So
I love that because it's not really living if you
yeah.
just feel like you're, because that's what, like I've said, the Wednesday would be miserable because I'd be like, ugh, I got to pack tomorrow.
Ah, yes, that's where I am now.
So thank God, I was in the era where once you went from clubs to theaters, that was it. Like you never walked into a club again.
Wow.
So I fucking loved that because I remember, I had sold out a bunch of improvs and I'm like, how did they sell out? And they're like, oh, because the Pam Anderson roast aired. And I go, oh, that's cool. And then
Okay.
Maggie's like, yeah, you're just doing theaters from now on. So I remember like everybody was like, oh, you don't stop in at the clubs anymore and do a spot. I go, what the fuck am I going to do that for? It don't pay. I go, I'm a big shot. But what's funny is because it was just even doing less, it was still so much stress because the ticket sales and the this and the radio, it's a 24/7 job.
Yep.
And there's something good about being my only 24/7 job now is just to show up for what feels right to me versus stuff that I'm forcing.
Yes, I'm really hoping. Like I just filmed. I don't even know what the wording. I just recorded, shot my
Yeah,
first 1 hour special a month ago.
I
And
heard.
thank you. So if and when, not if, when it's sold wherever it's going to go, I'm hoping that will get me to upgrade the career that I'm on now. Better clubs, and then, cause of
Yes.
course I want to see theaters and stadiums like a lot of comedians now who are now Nikki is a theater,
Yep.
Taylor Tomlinson, Sebastian Maniscalco, like they're all stadium theaters, arenas, and I'm like, I would love to at least see that before I scale back and do something else. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I think the thing is too, it's not wrong to want anything,
Yeah.
but I think the big secret, if I would have anything to impart to anyone, is to, if you just start getting used to wanting what you currently have, that other stuff takes care of itself. Like basically, I do not have to buy anything other than food and dog food probably the rest of my life, because I have enough.
Yeah.
So I think the key and the friends and we have what we need, and I think that's fine to on that level know that, but also we just going, wow, wow, I want this. This is the best mug for me. This is the best calendar for me. And the trick is just getting comfortable with that, because if you never made it to theaters, which I doubt that will happen, I think you're definitely going to. If you don't, it says absolutely nothing about you. It literally, and guess what? It's not going to make you feel a fucking little bit better about yourself.
I low key know that when it happens, I'm not going to feel
No.
anything other than more money.
Trust me. Well, money, thank God, I'm a saver from way back because I had depression era parents.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why I was able to retire. But guess what? I laugh when I think about my achievements. Never made me feel better for more than that day. And then the next day it's like, well, now I gotta fucking stay here. Now I gotta do more. Jesus Christ. And it's just like, oh.
It's never end. I would be in the makeup chair shooting something and thinking, well, this is gonna be over soon. What's next?
And it's very sad. And I think a great cautionary tale is Joan's life, and also watching Hacks on HBO Max.
I have yet to watch Hacks, but I remember Joan's documentary. Remember she opened up her schedule? I'm like, I don't want to. I feel like I understood that, and I don't want to.
it's an addiction. And the thing is, that's fine for her. I get it. She needed that because she had trauma and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I didn't have enough trauma in my life, thank God, to make me stick with something that wasn't making me happy, because
Uh,
ultimately it's just, it doesn't serve us anymore.
yeah.
So I think it's just everybody needs to just notice what makes them, I don't think joy or like ecstatic, just peaceful.
Contentment. Yeah.
Contentment is the goal. I freaking love that.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting journey. I like it.
You've been watching Hacks. It's on my list to watch Hacks.
Best show about comedy that's ever been made, because
Oh,
they really get how it feels for that compulsion. She's a very Joan Riversy type of person.
okay.
She has the QVC line. And actually, some of my friends are like, "Are you sure you're not a writer on that show?" Because the way she talks sometimes is shit I would do. Like, she's
Yeah.
a badass and she's
Yeah.
nuts. And like in the day, I was angry and nuts and would throw the iPad in the pool if I needed to, or whatever. Like, I just had a lot of anger that I didn't work on because it's working for comedy. Well, it doesn't work for your real life. So
Yeah.
enjoy your lack of connection. It's the greatest show about stand up, and also a really good show about stand up because they always miss the mark. The only other movie that works about stand up is The Opening Act, the one where,
I have not seen it with Steve Burns, the one
yeah.
that Steve Burns made. I haven't seen that one yet either.
And the reason it's good is
Oh no, I did. Jimmy Yang was the
yeah,
lead. I did see it. Yes.
so good because it really shows what a weekend's like and
Yes.
how your emotions fluctuate throughout that weekend.
Yeah.
And what I love is just having a life where my emotions really don't have to go insane. Yes, somebody's going to die. Yes, my mood is going to be terrible one day because of the weather or my dog's sick or something. But pretty much you're kind of status quo. And
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to live normally.
Yeah. So you never thought of continuing stand up, but just changing your style,
Oh, no,
or
no. Think of all the, everything I said to you has nothing to do with material.
no?
Everything was about the travel, the lack of connection, the
Yeah.
hacking, the knowing it's not really fun anymore.
Mm.
Um, and I get my little hits with, I just did this thing at the Fairfield Theater Company, this theater. It was like a storytelling show, like a 92nd Street Y interview with
Yeah.
another comic, and then did like a little roast of people who really deserve it, which is like
Yeah.
groups like, Trumpers, like people like that. So I
Yeah.
didn't roast celebrities. It was
Okay.
roasting like people who really deserve it, people who throw money at people on the street if they're homeless. So
Yeah.
I go, oh, this is good. So you get your little hits of that stuff. Like right now, I'm going to do shameless plug. I do a podcast with these two guys who,
I was gonna ask you about it. Yeah.
yeah, Bo and Nick. And it's a podcast that we stole the title from one of my roasts because I'd always say, but enough about these losers with a dream, enough about these wastes of skin. Let's get to William Shatner or whoever.
Yeah.
So I said, you guys are so deep. Because, Jackie, I swear, I have never met straight guys who are very, they're butch, they're not, femme at all. They're very deep when they talk about their feelings and issues. And I go, you guys, just listening to you as friends, I'm like, that's a podcast. And I go, I'm going to come on every week with you after you talk about whatever issue we pick, and it's going to be deep and it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
I'm going to come on and read you the fucking riot act about if you fucked up or what you did right that week. Because, I mean, there's deep stuff like acceptance, forgiveness, fear of success, things that they struggle with.
Yeah.
I've just never on a podcast heard two straight guys that age in their early 30s get so real that there might be tears involved. There might be real emotion. And I go, I'm just glad to see men actually doing something with feelings. And I love being associated with it. And again, whoever thought I'd be doing a podcast? It's not a big deal. But, I'm on with these two guys who are beginner comics, and it's just fun, joyful, peaceful, because we learn something every time. And the listeners keep saying, oh, wow, I learned a lot about myself. Because I think there's just not enough people representing guys with feelings. And I never.
No, they've been kind of exiled over the last few years, through fault of their own. They fucked up, but now I'm like, well, now we at some point we are gonna have to heal. We can't get. We tried to get rid of them. They're not gonna go anywhere. So now that they have to stay, how do we fix it so we can all get along and you guys can treat women this whole new way now that they're not used to treating people like this.
Oh
So
yeah, because that's the thing. I was getting sick of all the broy podcasts,
yeah,
like rape culture,
Me
sex.
Too, is it real? Blah blah blah, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
it's like no. It's
Yeah,
like you're a bro because you were probably either entitled and told you mom loved you too much, or
Mhm.
you were abused and haven't dealt with your trauma yet.
Yeah,
These guys, I think what made me perk up about them and say, let's do this was because they are so open and not that weird bro culture, despite being able, you could almost look at them and go, oh, I could write them off as just guys who go to the gym.
yeah.
And I have a lot of men in my family. I have a brother who has 5 boys and
Mhm.
a sister who has one, and none of them are broy. None of them are rapey.
Yeah.
None of them. I mean, I have a nephew. You would love him. His wife has a huge podcast. He literally only wears shirts supporting her podcast,
Oh,
or I'll help you. I'll go with you. Trans shirts, like shirts in support of trans rights.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm like, oh my God, there's sensitive, cool guys out there, but unfortunately, their voices, it's not as cute to like listen to them
yeah,
what people think if you're a guy. So I love kind of putting out there that we're all not alike. We all have, don't just think all guys suck or all white people suck.
yeah.
Most white people suck. That's why I'm black. I'm
You know,
so yeah,
I have in audiences when I have these jokes that giving men advice, and I can see them in the audience kind of go like, "Oh God," they get kind of worried. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm like, you guys, I love men. I talk about how much I was raised by a good dad. I attract when it's time for romance, good men. I'm like,
yes.
you guys are not, I'm like, you guys are not used to just being praised at all. They look so abused in the audience. It's kind of fun to see, but it's also kind of sad. You know?
Well, yeah, you're right. And I think Liz Plank wrote a great book about a year and a half ago. I think it's called In the Defense of Men or something like that. And it became very popular because it's just men are taught not to feel. Men
Exactly.
are taught not to have emotion. Hey, I'll wipe that smile off your face. I'll wipe that tear, I'll slap that tear off you. And I'm like, oh, that's not cute either. So we all look, men are lucky in one way. They have male privilege.
Yeah.
White men are lucky. They have white privilege and male privilege. But it doesn't mean they don't, like these two guys I do the podcast with, Nick and Bo, they know they have white privilege. They definitely know they have male privilege, and they probably have physical appearance privilege.
Mhm.
Well, and they can admit to that, plus say, well, there's still things we have to work on,
Yeah.
and that things we struggle with. Dating. I mean, dating's hard for anyone, dude. I
I
don't,
was
by the
gonna
way,
ask you if you date. I was gonna ask
oh,
you.
I
What?
couldn't be bothered. Here's what happens. I
What?
was lucky enough to go through menopause when I was like 50.
I'm currently
Okay.
going through it, Lisa. Is the best you said?
I'll tell you why. For
I was
me,
like, what?
well, I had gotten the weight loss surgery around the same time, coincidentally. So I didn't have night sweats. I didn't have any problems.
Okay.
That's what it did.
What?
I had been so codependent that I had boyfriends from age, 13 to 50 or 40 something. And I go, well, I really need to figure out who I am alone.
Mhm.
So with menopause, like the sexual feelings like left. So I was like, oh my God, this is the universe's way of like going, don't fuck awful guys for a while. And
Focus on yourself. Yeah.
yeah, and like I think a friend told me at the time, he goes, "You're the best at being single that I've ever seen because you just are happy by yourself. But in the past, you didn't think it was possible." I think
Yeah.
it's once you're free of it, you go, "Oh my God, I can
Yeah.
kill life."
Nobody believes me, and that I'm a very good single person
Oh my God, it's
because
the best.
the woman who wrote the book Eat, Pray, Love,
Yes.
she made a comment once with Oprah. She said, "The amount of time that I have spent on this earth trying to relate to men, wanting them to like me and love me, I could have learned several languages. I could have seen the world 5, 6 times."
Yep.
That is like 10 years ago, and it sticks in my head like the amount of time I
Yes.
have put into men. I could speak every language.
Yeah.
I could own, I mean, I just didn't put my goals above a boyfriend or I want guys to like me. It's kind of makes
Right.
me sad. In
Well, you
retrospect.
know what it is too? I say the same exact sentence about food. If I had used the brain power that I used on all the diets for all those 38 years, the struggle, the memorizing the calorie counts, the Weight Watchers points, the freaking gym memberships that went undone, I'm like, I could have written 3 Broadway shows. And
Yeah.
the fact is, guess what? I
What?
wouldn't have. I
Nah.
had to get to this place with that journey. But I think with the men, I always felt like it would make me safe and feel safe to have a boyfriend because
Oh.
I always had, I was a serial monogamist. I always had one boyfriend or another. And I'm like, oh, because I didn't feel safe at home just because my mother had anger issues. Thank God I
Okay.
had a great father, but he wasn't very like, he was timid, bless his heart. And I go, oh, I needed a boyfriend to protect me, which is why I was probably never me too'd. I was never, thank God, hit on sexually. I was a I think it's because also I was so fucking defensive that
Yeah.
I would have broke a cock off. But I think
You might have had some guy scared of you a little bit back
I
then.
I think that was I was pretty fearsome. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, whoa, we're not gonna bother with this bitch because
Yeah.
she's crazy. So I think it's almost like we needed men as protection, and now I see I don't. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, I can actually protect myself. Maybe not physically. Hey, I'm
Yeah.
60. What do you want from me? I fucking
Yeah.
ballroom dance. What, I'm gonna foxtrot him to death? But I go, you know what? I think it's just another thing to go, I don't need to have my guard up by having a guy around all the time. And I don't think all men suck. And I
No, neither do
hate
I.
when I'm with a bunch of women and they're like, men are awful. And I literally, because of the podcast and things, I just do say to them, I said, that's not true. I don't even argue with them. That's their journey.
No.
But
I have
it's not
I'm
true.
having trouble connecting with women now because whenever we get together, it becomes kind of a man trash
Oh,
session. And I'm like, even though I've made horrible decisions with men, I still have kept my head above water, and I've always been boy crazy.
yeah.
And that's not doesn't go away because I have one guy now. I'm always gonna be like, oh man, I just I have a crush on them. So when I get around women who are always talking about how they ain't shit, I'm like, this is why men don't want to be around you because all you do is talk about how horrible they are. Who
Yeah.
wants to crack that code?
Horrible. And again, it's like painting any group with a brush is horrible.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, black people do this, white people do this. And I'm like, yeah, that's not true. Like like again, I don't bother going into arguments I'm not gonna ever make an impact with.
Yeah, don't bother either. There's
But
no point.
yeah, and I just go, well, that's probably not true. But like
Hmm.
I literally had somebody arguing with me at dinner that white people don't have privilege. And I was just like, I go, I can't get loud in a restaurant. This is a real hot button, obviously, for everybody.
They've never left their environment. That's why they're, people who don't have
Hello.
exposure to anything. That's why they have those opinions. I'm
Right.
like,
She's
you
like,
haven't.
well, my black friends tell me they
That's why you
resent.
shouldn't say anything.
Exactly. And I just go like this. I go, your black friends are probably agreeing with you because they know what happens when you disagree with fucking whitey.
And
So
there's only three of them. So
hello. I just let it go. I say the way I deal with this, I do have to do it with taste and quietly, but then not have dinner with them again. Like I just can't.
I know. Yes, or I pretend I don't see the text or the invitation because I'm like, I can't.
Yes.
I love them, but I'm like, I know it drains my energy because staying upbeat and positive, it is a daily thing. I'm actively telling myself you're going to have a good day, be happy. You're grateful to have this job. You know what job you used to have. You have a
Mhm.
boyfriend. Be grateful. So when I come across someone, I'm like, it's going to be a bitch fest, and they're not a bitch, but it's going to be a bitching fest.
Yes, of
And
course.
I'm like, I can't do that. Now let me ask you, what do you do that is not like? Do you go to therapy now? Like, how do you maintain this
Uh,
new mentality that you have?
well, I had a really traumatic summer last summer because there was a lot of friendship, family,
Oh.
scarcity of purpose with a capital P, thinking I had to have purpose with a capital P. And I'm like, no, I don't have to. So I worked all that through with a somatic therapist, which is more about where it's stuck in that energy stuck in the body. And that's hard. It's really like there's a lot of stuff that comes up. So now I just started with a new guy this week about like, okay, let's fine tune that and talk about what the big issues of safety, powerlessness, the things that have echoed since childhood that I haven't worked on. So what I love is like within the first 45 minutes with just his questioning and me feeling where the energy was stuck, he's like, oh, would it be a safe bet that you felt powerless as a kid? I'm like, yeah.
Mm,
Same thing with safety. What's great about it, he goes, well, that's a good place to start next week. So I'm like, oh, wow, I get to like tackle these big things
yeah.
and go. It's not forever. It's gonna be fine. It's really interesting because I think the best thing money can buy you is therapy. So when they're like, money can't buy you happiness, I'm like, oh, it can if you use it for therapy and
Yeah.
rehab and things that make your life better.
Better. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that,
that might be why you adopted the personality you did on stage, 'cause you didn't feel safe as a child. So you're
oh,
like, I'm like, so my armor is Lisa Lampanelli, the brand. So no one can penetrate
yeah.
the armor.
Yeah,
You know
get them before they get you. I
exactly.
remember I tell a story in this storytelling show I do, where somebody heckled me like my fifth time on stage. And it wasn't even a mean heckle. Like, it wasn't even mean. They said another comic was on stage, a different guy. I had done really well, thank God. And he was bombing this poor guy. And someone yelled, "Hey, this guy sucks. Bring back the fat chick." And anyone with self-esteem would have heard "bring back" and been
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I'm so funny. All I heard was "fat chick."
Yeah.
And it literally overnight, like literally turned me into an insult comic. I sat at the table in this very room and just was like, oh yeah. And I wrote really funny comebacks. And then nobody was yelling at me anymore. It's like being a Boy Scout. I'm being over prepared and nobody freaking is, I'm not lost in a desert. So, it's interesting. It was a defense mechanism, but it worked.
Of
And
course it did. Yeah.
that's the fucking, it's good and bad. It worked enough so I could save some money and work on me, but it also put it off for so many years because you're just going on achievement and
You
wow,
don't
I'm killing
realize it. Was cutting your hair part of any release when you cut? 'Cause I remember you had your hair like at a bob for a long time.
Oh, then I had the hair extensions. I
Yeah.
mean, they were beautiful,
Hmm.
but I mean, those are so expensive. Plus, you have to sit there with some Yahoo doing them for 8 hours. You're like, come on, really?
The worst part about getting any kind of hair thing done is listening to that person talk about the ridiculous life forever. I'm like, can we just keep this quiet?
He knew better. Let's put it that way. I would at the time I would make my assistant come with me and we would do work just to like
Oh,
because 8 hours I'm not going to sit there. God forbid I'd relax, right?
yeah.
But so what happened with the hair was when you first have weight loss surgery, your hair thins out a lot. And I
Uh-huh.
knew it was going to come back. I never panicked about any of that.
Yeah.
Like she cut it like this. But then I kept seeing all this cute stuff like Julianne Hough, who like I have a total girl crush on, and like all
Oh.
these cute girls getting these cute haircuts. I'm like, yes. So ever since I got that, I've just done different like iterations of short hair. I just
It
like it.
fits you so well. It
Oh,
so
thanks,
fits
dude.
you.
Yeah, and it's funny because sometimes it's pink, purple, green, but I always go back to the teal. There's something about it that feeds the soul for me.
Really, and you know what's funny? My hair has become drastically gray in the last year. More like it won't come in black anymore. And I didn't color it the whole pandemic because I was kind of like, what? Because first of all, it doesn't bother me. I actually like it. Because when you have dark hair your whole life, you crave some lightness.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so when my hair started going gray, silver really, I'm like, I'm going to keep it because now with wigs on TV, if I get a TV show, whatever, there's so many ways you don't have to color your hair anymore.
Oh,
And I'm like, I like being me with the silver hair.
I love that you said that because when I started ballroom dancing like 4 years ago, I started getting a lot of wigs because you're playing these different characters, so you're not going to go on with the blue hair.
Yeah.
I love wigs, and every time I did Wendy Williams, I would say to her, "I am getting wigs. Like you
Yeah.
are inspiring me." Dude, I still have like 5 wigs. I gave a bunch away to some girl with cancer, which by the way, she never sent me a thank you note. I'm just saying. I mean,
Oh, that's a
anyway,
good.
I've let it go. I'm sending her love and light.
Okay.
But anyway, so I gave her a bunch of wigs, but I kept ones that were really cute.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting how easy life can be just plopping this thing on your head?
Yeah. No, it's one of my Kim Whitley brought me to this world of wigs, and I go to her house, a whole room full, but so stress free. You can worry about so many other things and not fucking hair all the time.
Well, I think that's interesting because I've stopped getting facials. I've stopped getting, and my skin is great. What if I care? What are you gonna do to me? I have no maintenance. I put on makeup. I know what I'm doing. I don't need hair and makeup people anymore.
Yeah.
They taught me their tricks. They were kind enough to say, "Look, man, you know what you're doing. You
Yeah.
watched us do it for 25 years." But it's so cool to be like, wow, I don't have to think about a lot of that stuff that took so much space in my head.
I would chase the gray that pop up here with the L'Oreal spray.
Yes.
I was like, I have to let this go, or
And you know what?
either commit to dying forever or let your hair grow. whatever color God's like. This is your next phase.
That's
Just do
right.
it, you know. So what do you have going on now that you want to plug or tell the world about before we
Okay,
get
I
out?
guess the only thing that I want people to do is work on themselves. But other than that, I think they should go on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Give a listen to Losers with a Dream. I do a fabulous, at least half of the podcast every week. It is so deep, it's so good, but so funny because there's nothing like hearing two straight guys get yelled at consistently by Lisa Lampanelli.
Oh,
So
there's nothing that beats that. Anybody.
so please go to the link in my bio on Instagram. It's there. And P.S. My Instagram and all the other crap is just my name, Lisa Lampanelli. If you can't spell it, by the way, you don't deserve to follow me. So
Now, I want to ask you, this is the self-interest. Do you do tours now, motivational tour? Because I'm a speaker. No, nothing. I want to pull you into, I want to
well,
pull.
dude, if you have an idea and Maggie can book it, and all I have to do is talk about my journey, because I
Yes.
wrote those plays about
That's it.
sign me up. Because you know why? If it is in my heart, it really is in my heart to tell the story about the food issues and the codependency, because so many people struggle with that stuff.
Yeah.
And my journey isn't like anyone else's, but people see them. I mean, I get emails when I do that show, people going, oh my God, I did that too. Oh my God, I did that. And you feel like, oh, good, it's resonating at least on this level. So yeah, dude, if you ever want to put something together, I freaking would love it, because I like your vibe. I like you as a human. You're a good egg.
Whenever I do the speaking gigs, I've had women come up after me crying, and I'm like, how do you not? And you realize, oh my God, I could be funny, but in a different way. So you have inspired me. And yes, I'm going to talk to Maggie, and maybe we'll see what the cards the universe has for me and Lisa Lampanelli. Thank you so much. You never know. Thank you so much. This was amazing. I hope everyone watches it. They're watching now on YouTube Live, but when I post it, trust me, you'll repost. Everyone will see it. But thank you so much. And this is not the last time. We are bonded now.
No, we are. Yeah, now we're officially friends. So get ready to say no to me, bitch.
Never. Or I won't tell you I'm avoiding you. But you'll know.
I love you, dude. Thank you for everything.
Love you back. Thank you so much.